Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters in Christ today, I want to talk about something urgent, something divine, something that is calling out to you right now. The message is this: chosen one. Your body is demanding this. You need it most right now. We live in a world where noise surrounds us, distractions pull at us, and the pressures of life weigh heavy. Yet within all of this, your very body, your very spirit is crying out. It is not a random cry. It is the voice of destiny, the call of the one who created you, the reminder that you were set apart, chosen, not by accident, but by design. And so the question is this: will you ignore the cry or will you answer it? Because what you need the most right now is not what the world offers, not what man gives, but what your Creator has already prepared for you. This is not just a moment, it is a calling. And it is calling you today when we say that you are chosen, not by accident, but by divine appointment. We are speaking of something that reaches beyond the natural realm and into the eternal. The very fact that you are here, alive in this moment, is evidence that you are not a mistake. You are not the product of random chance, nor the outcome of blind coincidence. Long before your name was ever spoken by human lips, it was already written in the heart of God. Long before you took your first breath, He already knew the number of your days, the purpose of your journey, and the destiny laid before you. The word chosen means set apart, selected, appointed for something greater than what is common, and that is who you are. Think about this: of all the billions of people who have lived throughout history, of all the countless generations that have come and gone, you are alive now in this specific time, in this specific season. That is not an accident. God could have placed you in any century, in any culture, in any land, but He chose this exact moment for you to walk the earth. That means there is something in this age, in this hour, in this world, that only you can fulfill. No one else carries your exact fingerprint, your exact voice, your exact combination of gifts, struggles, and victories. The uniqueness of your existence testifies to the intentionality of your creation. You are not a random puzzle piece dropped into the universe. You are a divinely crafted piece that completes a picture no one else can complete. To be chosen means that your story has weight. Every trial you have faced, every valley you have walked through, every scar you carry is not wasted. They are not meaningless marks of pain, but evidence of a hand shaping you, molding you, preparing you for something greater. What others saw as rejection, God saw as redirection. What others thought would break you was actually part of the refining fire that would purify you for your calling. Being chosen does not mean life is easy. In fact, it often means the opposite. The chosen walk through storms that ordinary people might not endure because the chosen are being equipped for extraordinary purposes. You may have wondered at times why certain doors closed, why certain relationships ended, why certain dreams seemed delayed. It was not because you were abandoned, but because you are chosen. A chosen vessel cannot be filled with just anything. It must be preserved for what it was designed to carry. A chosen instrument cannot play every tune. It must be tuned for the melody it was created to release. If you belong to God, if His hand is upon you, then you must know that even your detours are part of His design. The world may label you as unlucky, too late, too different, but heaven calls you appointed, prepared, anointed for such a time as this. Consider how the scriptures remind us of this pattern again and again. Abraham was chosen to leave his homeland and become the father of nations. Moses was chosen to lead a people out of bondage, though he doubted his own voice. David was chosen while still a shepherd boy, overlooked by his own family, but destined to be a king. Esther was chosen to stand before royalty and intercede for her people in a time of crisis. Each of them could have believed they were unworthy, that their circumstances disqualified them, but being chosen was never about human qualification. It was always about divine selection. And the same God who chose them has chosen you. When you walk into a room, You may feel unseen by people, but heaven recognizes you. When you face trials, you may feel forgotten, but your name is etched into the palm of the one who formed you. When doubt creeps in, when the enemy whispers that you are insignificant, remember this: chosen ones are often attacked the hardest because the enemy fears the impact they will make. He does not waste his time on the purposeless. If he fights you so fiercely, it is only because he knows what you carry. Being chosen also means responsibility. Sis, it means that your life cannot be lived carelessly. It means your choices have greater weight because you are carrying something sacred. It means you are being called higher, to walk in obedience even when it is costly, to surrender your will even when it is difficult, to trust the unseen plan even when the visible path seems unclear. To be chosen is to live not for yourself, but for the one who set you apart. And so, when I tell you that you are chosen not by accident, but by divine appointment, I am reminding you that your existence is intentional. Your presence here in this moment is intentional. Every detail of your life woven together is intentional. The hand of God is upon you, and that hand does not create mistakes. You may not fully understand it. You may not see the fullness of it yet, but the truth remains: you are chosen, and heaven itself bears witness to that truth. Your body and spirit are signaling a deeper need right now. And this is not something to be brushed aside or drowned out by the noise of the world. So often we live as if our bodies are machines, pushing them beyond their limits, ignoring their cries for rest, nourishment, and renewal. But your body was never designed to be treated as a disposable vessel. It is the temple of the living God, intricately woven with purpose, created not just to carry you through this life, but to serve as the dwelling place of his Spirit. When your body groans, when your mind feels weary, when your soul feels restless, it is not simply weakness, it is a divine signal. It is heaven's way of alerting you that something within needs to be restored, replenished, or realigned with the Creator's design. We live in an age where the voices of distraction constantly drown out these signals. Technology, business, stress, and ambition often keep us from hearing the truth that our own being is crying out. But silence those distractions for a moment, and you will notice your body is telling you when it needs rest, when it needs healing, when it needs to draw closer to God. Your spirit is telling you when you are out of alignment, when your priorities are misplaced, when you are filling yourself with the wrong things. These signals are not to be ignored. They are reminders that you are not just flesh and blood, you are body, soul, and spirit, designed to work together under the guidance of the one who formed you. There are times when you feel a deep emptiness that food cannot fill, that entertainment cannot satisfy, that success cannot quiet. That is not a physical hunger, it is a spiritual hunger. Your spirit is yearning for connection with the source of life. There are times when you feel fatigue that no amount of sleep seems to cure. That is not simply physical tiredness. It is the heaviness of carrying burdens you were never meant to carry alone. There are times when your thoughts feel scattered, your heart feels heavy, and your body feels drained. These are signals that something deeper is at play, something that calls you back to the presence of God. Just as pain in the body warns us of injury, so the cries of the Spirit warn us of neglect. When we ignore those signals, we risk drifting further from the purpose for which we were created. The truth is, your body and spirit will not lie to you. They will tell you when you are weary, when you are out of balance, when you are disconnected from the life-giving presence of God. And though the world may teach you to suppress, medicate, or escape these feelings, heaven calls you to listen, to recognize them as invitations to return, to restore, to be filled again with what truly sustains. Throughout Scripture, we see this pattern. Elijah, after a great victory, fell into despair and exhaustion. His body and spirit demanded rest, and God provided food and sleep before sending him forward again. David often cried out in the Psalms, expressing the anguish of a soul weighed down, signaling the need for God's refreshing presence. Even Jesus, fully divine yet fully human, withdrew to quiet places to pray, to restore strength, to align himself with the Father. If they listen to their bodies and spirits, how much more should we, knowing that these signals are not weaknesses, but signs of life, pointing us back to the source? When your body demands stillness, it is not laziness. It is an opportunity to receive renewal. When your spirit longs for peace, it is not weakness. It is a call to draw near to the one who is peace. When your heart feels restless, it is not aimlessness. It is a holy dissatisfaction meant to lead you beyond temporary substitutes to eternal fulfillment. To ignore these signals is to silence the voice of God speaking through his creation, for you yourself are his handiwork, designed with precision to reveal when something is missing. Consider how many people live disconnected from themselves, numbing their pain, suppressing their hunger, distracting themselves from their own cries. But the chosen cannot live that way. The chosen are called to pay attention, to honor the signals within, to recognize that the temple of the Holy Spirit is worth caring for, worth listening to, worth aligning with the will of God. When you feel the groaning inside, when your heart longs for something more, it is because there is indeed something more. That hunger, that thirst, that restlessness is not your enemy. It is your guide. It is leading you back to the living waters, to the bread of life, to the presence where true healing and strength are found. Your body and spirit are not at war with each other, though the world often makes it seem so. They are partners designed to work in unity, each signaling what the other needs. When the body is tired, it is often the spirit that needs peace. When the spirit feels heavy, the body often carries the weight. And when both cry out together, it is a call not to despair, but to rise and return to the one who makes all things whole. What you crave is not of the world, but of God's design. And this truth is one of the most profound realities we often overlook. Every human being carries within them a hunger, a longing, an unshakable desire for something more than what they can see, touch, or possess. We try to fill this craving with achievements, with material possessions, with relationships, with entertainment. But no matter how much we gain, there remains a space that is never satisfied. That inner longing is not accidental. It is intentional. It was placed there by the Creator himself, a homing beacon that always points us back to him. What your soul cries for most deeply cannot be purchased in a store, cannot be earned through hard work, cannot be satisfied by temporary pleasures. It is only fulfilled by what God has designed for you. Look around at the culture we live in today, and you will see endless attempts to satisfy this craving with substitutes. People chase success, believing that if they can just climb high enough, they will finally feel complete. Others seek fulfillment in relationships, hoping that another human being can fill the void that only God can occupy. Some turn to substances, distractions, or endless business, thinking that if they can just numb the ache, it will disappear. But the ache does not vanish because it was never meant to be silenced. It was meant to be answered. That ache is the evidence of eternity written into your very being, a reminder that you were made for more than this world. The scriptures declare that God has set eternity in the human heart. That means that within you, there is a longing for something infinite, something unending, something divine, and nothing finite can ever satisfy an infinite hunger. No matter how much money you accumulate, there will always be a sense of emptiness. No matter how much applause you receive, there will always be a question of worth. No matter how many pleasures you indulge in, there will always be a thirst that lingers. That thirst was designed to draw you back to the living water, the kind of water Jesus spoke of when he told the woman at the well that whoever drinks of this water will thirst again, but whoever drinks of the water he gives will never thirst. When you find yourself craving peace in a world filled with chaos, that craving is not of the world. It is of God's design. When you feel a hunger for love that goes deeper than human affection, that hunger is not of the world. It is of God's design. When you long for purpose, for meaning, for clarity in the midst of confusion, that longing is not of the world. It is of God's design. These cravings are not flaws. They are signposts. They are pointing you beyond what is temporary toward what is eternal, beyond what is superficial toward what is supernatural. Think about the way God created the body. Physical hunger is a signal that we need nourishment, and thirst is a signal that we need water. In the same way, spiritual hunger and spiritual thirst are signals that we need Him. Just as food satisfies hunger and water quenches thirst, only God can satisfy the cravings of the Spirit. And just as the body cannot live long without food or water, the Spirit cannot truly live without the presence and power of God. To ignore those cravings or to try to satisfy them with worldly things is to starve the soul while feeding the flesh. Throughout history, men and women of faith have testified to this truth. Augustine once wrote that our hearts are restless until they rest in God. David declared in the Psalms that as the deer pants for streams of water, so his soul longed for God. Paul wrote of pressing forward not toward earthly prizes, but toward the heavenly call of Christ Jesus. Each of these voices echoes the same reality, that the deepest cravings within us are not met by earthly means, but by divine encounter. And consider this, the cravings themselves are proof of God's love. He designed you with a longing that nothing else could satisfy so that you would always be drawn back to Him. It is like a compass built into your soul, always pointing toward home. Even when you stray, even when you fill your life with substitutes, the craving remains, whispering that you were made for more. It is both a gift and a guide, ensuring that no matter how far you wander, there will always be something inside you reminding you where true fulfillment is found. The world will always offer counterfeits, temporary fixes, false promises. It will tell you that success will complete you, that pleasure will satisfy you, that possessions will secure you. But time always reveals the truth. The craving persists. The hunger returns. The thirst remains. And in that moment, when you realize the world cannot give you what you need, you stand on holy ground, for that realization itself is the opening to encounter the God who can. The ache you feel, the longing you cannot escape, the emptiness you try to ignore, all of it is not a curse, but a call, not a weakness, but a witness to the truth that you were made for Him. Ignoring the call leads to emptiness. Answering it leads to life. This truth strikes at the very heart of the human experience. Every person is given moments, sometimes subtle and sometimes undeniable, when they sense the call of God stirring within them. It may come as a quiet whisper in the stillness of night, as a deep stirring in the middle of struggle, as an unshakable conviction when faced with a choice. The call comes in different ways, but always with the same intent: to draw you closer to the one who made you, to invite you into the life for which you were created. But when that call is ignored, when it is silenced, when it is brushed aside for the noise of the world, the result is always emptiness. You can fill your days with activity, your calendar with commitments, your shelves with achievements, and your hands with possessions, but none of it can silence the void that comes from ignoring the divine call. It is like a tree cut off from its roots. It may stand for a time, but inside it begins to wither. The call of God is not an option among many. It is the lifeline of your soul. When you resist it, when you pretend not to hear, you begin to drift into a life that looks full but feels hollow. The applause of others may surround you, but the silence inside will testify to what you are missing. Think about the countless stories of those who reached the top of worldly success and still confessed to feeling empty. The reason is simple: they ignored the call. They pursued everything else except the one thing that truly matters. Ignoring the call is like drinking from a cup that looks full but contains only sand. It does not nourish. It does not sustain. It does not satisfy. It leaves you more parched than before. The tragedy is not that people cannot hear the call. It is that they often choose to drown it out, convincing themselves they will answer later, not realizing that later often becomes never. But when the call is answered, everything changes. To answer the call is to open the door to life, real life, abundant life. It is to step into alignment with the reason you were created. It is to walk in the footsteps of the divine plan designed before the foundation of the world. Answering the call does not mean every circumstance becomes easy, but it does mean that every circumstance gains meaning. Even the trials become purposeful. Even the struggles carry weight because they are part of the journey of the chosen. Answering the call ignites something inside of you that nothing in the world can extinguish. It brings a joy not dependent on circumstances. See plexus, a peace that surpasses understanding, a strength that does not come from your own effort, but from the presence of God dwelling within you. Throughout Scripture, we see this contrast played out. Jonah ignored the call and ran in the opposite direction. And what did he find? Emptiness, turmoil, and a storm that threatened to consume him. But when he answered, when he surrendered, the purpose of God flowed through him, and an entire city was transformed. The rich young ruler heard the call to follow, but turned away, clinging to his possessions, and walked away sorrowful because he chose emptiness over life. Meanwhile, fishermen by the Sea of Galilee heard the same call and dropped their nets immediately, and in doing so, they stepped into a life that would change the world. The pattern is clear. Ignoring the call always leads to emptiness, but answering it always leads to life. Even in your own experience, you can sense this truth. Think back to times when you resisted what you knew was right, when you turned away from what God was pressing on your heart. The temporary relief of ignoring it eventually gave way to regret, to restlessness, to emptiness. But recall the times when you said yes, when you stepped out in faith, when you followed even though it was difficult. Those are the moments you felt most alive, most connected, most aligned with your purpose. The difference between emptiness and life is not found in circumstances, but in response. The call is not something distant or unreachable. It is already within you, woven into your very being, resonating in your spirit. Sometimes it calls you to surrender what you are holding on to. Sometimes it calls you to step into something new. Sometimes it calls you simply to return and rest in the presence of God. But always it calls you toward life. The choice is whether you will silence it or embrace it. To ignore it is to keep chasing shadows, to keep filling your hands with things that slip through your fingers. To answer it is to step into the fullness of what you were always meant to carry. The most dangerous thing about ignoring the call is not the immediate emptiness, but the gradual dulling of the soul. The more you resist, the easier it becomes to silence the voice until eventually you no longer notice it. And yet even then, deep within, the achy remains, the longing persists, the emptiness grows. But for those who answer, even in trembling and uncertainty, life begins to overflow. The call was never meant to rob you. It was always meant to give you more than you could imagine, to bring you into a reality greater than what this world offers. It is the dividing line between hollow existence and true abundant life. This moment is not ordinary. It is a divine intersection. Too often we think of life as a series of random events, a collection of days and hours strung together without deeper meaning. But in truth, every moment carries weight, every season carries significance, and certain moments stand apart as appointed times. A divine intersection is when your path crosses with the purposes of God in a way that demands your attention, when the natural collides with the supernatural, when what seems like coincidence is revealed to be providence. Right now, in this very moment, you are standing in such a place. It may not look extraordinary on the surface, but what heaven is arranging is far greater than what the eyes can see. Moments like these are easy to miss if you are only focused on the ordinary. A conversation that seems casual could carry words that alter the course of your destiny. A decision that seems small could open a door into a new chapter of purpose. An encounter that seems brief could be the very connection that changes everything. Divine intersections are hidden within the fabric of everyday life, waiting to be recognized by those who are willing to see beyond the surface. The difference between treating this as an ordinary moment or recognizing it as divine lies in your awareness, your openness, your willingness to listen to the voice of God speaking beneath the noise. The scriptures are filled with examples of divine intersections. Moses thought he was merely tending sheep on an ordinary day, but it was the day he encountered the burning bush and received his call. David was delivering bread to his brothers on the battlefield, a task that seemed ordinary, yet it was the day he stepped into destiny by defeating Goliath. The Samaritan woman went to the well simply to draw water, but it became the moment she met the Messiah and her life was transformed. These examples remind us that the extraordinary often hides within the ordinary, that what seems insignificant in the moment can actually be a turning point in the eternal plan. Right now, you are alive in this specific season, in this specific generation, not by chance, but by design. You could have been born in another century, in another land, into another culture, yet you were placed here and now. That alone is evidence that your life is aligned with a greater purpose. The very fact that you are hearing these words, that your spirit is stirring in this moment, that something inside of you is recognizing the truth being spoken, is proof that you are standing at a divine intersection. Heaven is not silent, it is speaking to you through the timing of this moment, through the alignment of your circumstances, through the undeniable sense that something greater is unfolding. At a divine intersection, the choices you make carry greater weight. You can turn away, dismiss it as coincidence, and continue down the path of ordinary living, or you can recognize it for what it is and step forward in faith, knowing that God Himself has orchestrated this moment for your growth, your transformation, your calling. What you do with this moment will shape the direction of your future, because divine intersections are not given for curiosity, but for decision. They are the moments when God draws near, when eternity touches time, when you are invited to respond in a way that opens the door to greater purpose. So often people look back on their lives and realize in hindsight the importance of moments they did not recognize at the time. They see how a single yes changed everything, how a single step of obedience redirected their story, how a single encounter shifted their destiny. The danger lies in treating the sacred as common, in assuming that what you face today is just another day. Every divine intersection carries the potential of transformation, but only those who see it and respond to it experience its fullness. There is also a weight of responsibility in recognizing that this moment is not ordinary. When you understand that you are standing in a divine intersection, you cannot treat it lightly. It means that distractions must be silenced, that excuses must be set aside, that fear must be overcome, because the opportunity before you is not about you, is not just about you. It is about the lives you are meant to impact, the purposes you are meant to fulfill, the kingdom you are meant to advance. Divine intersections are never just about personal blessing. They are about divine assignment. When the Israelites stood at the edge of the Red Sea, it looked like a moment of crisis, but it was in fact a divine intersection, the point where God would reveal His power and lead His people into freedom. When Esther stood before the king, it looked like a dangerous risk, but it was a divine intersection, the moment she was positioned for such a time as this. When Peter cast his net at the word of Jesus after a night of failure, it looked like a simple act of fishing. but it was a divine intersection that would lead him into a new life as a fisher of men. These stories remind us that divine intersections rarely come with flashing signs or obvious labels. They come disguised as challenges, opportunities, or choices that demand faith. This very moment carries that same potential. You are not standing here by mistake. You are not hearing these words by chance. You are standing at a divine intersection where God is calling you to recognize the sacredness of now, to awaken to the reality that this moment is charged with destiny. It is not ordinary. It is not casual. It is not random. It is the place where heaven meets earth, where purpose meets opportunity, where your next step has the power to shift everything that comes after. Rise and respond, for the chosen cannot remain silent. There comes a time when hearing is no longer enough, when knowing is no longer sufficient, when sensing the call within must turn into action. To rise is to break the inertia of hesitation, to shake off the weight of fear, doubt, and complacency, and to step forward into the destiny prepared for you. To respond is to take ownership of your calling, to say yes not only in heart, but in deed, to let your life itself become the answer to the one who called you. Silence may feel safe, waiting may feel easier, but silence is not an option for the chosen. The chosen were set apart not to blend in, but to stand out, not to remain still, but to move in alignment with divine purpose. There is a danger in remaining silent when your voice is required, when your presence is needed, when your obedience is demanded. Silence in the face of destiny leads to missed opportunities, to dormant gifts, to purposes unfulfilled. History is full of moments when silence led to tragedy, when those chosen to speak shrank back, when those chosen to act stood still. But it is also full of testimonies of those who rose, who responded, who refused to let fear keep them silent. They were ordinary men and women who recognized that the time to act was now, and their response changed the course of history. Consider the story of Esther. She could have remained silent, hidden in the safety of the palace, pretending the crisis outside her walls did not concern her. Yet she understood that she had come to her position for such a time as this. Her decision to rise and respond saved a nation. Think of Moses. He could have stayed in the wilderness tending sheep, silent about the cries of his people, but when God called, he rose to stand before Pharaoh and declare freedom. Think of the disciples. They could have returned to their fishing boats after the resurrection, but instead they responded to the command to go into all the world, and their voices carried the gospel to the ends of the earth. In each case, rising and responding was not optional, it was essential. The chosen cannot remain silent because their silence leaves a void that nothing else can fill. Your voice carries a frequency that no other voice can replace. Your presence carries a weight that no one else can replicate. Your obedience unlocks doors that will not open through anyone else. When you remain silent, when you remain passive, the world is robbed what God placed within you. There are people waiting for your word, your testimony, your courage. There are lives tied to your obedience, destinies connected to your response. To withhold it is not only to deny your own calling, but to deny the impact you were designed to bring to others. Rising and responding requires courage, but courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act in spite of it. Fear will always try to chain the chosen, whispering that you are unworthy, that you are unprepared, that you are too small. But the truth is that the power of the chosen does not come from themselves. It comes from the one who called them. When God appoints, he equips. When he sends, he provides. When he calls, he goes with you. Rising does not depend on your strength, but on his. And responding is not about your sufficiency, but about his faithfulness. There will always be reasons to remain silent. The world will tell you it is safer to keep quiet, easier to blend in, wiser to avoid risk. But the chosen are not called to safety. They are called to significance. They are not called to hide their light, but to let it shine. They are not called to blend with the noise of the world, but to carry a voice that cuts through it. Silence is comfortable, but it is costly. It costs the fulfillment of purpose, the realization of potential, the impact you were meant to leave. When you rise, you give permission to others to rise. When you respond, you awaken courage in those who are watching. Your action creates a ripple effect, inspiring others to recognize and embrace their own calling. The chosen cannot remain silent because their very lives are testimonies, living declarations of what God can do through a surrendered vessel. Your story, your breakthrough, your faith lived out loud has the power to ignite change in others that silence never could. Every generation needs voices that will not remain silent, people who will rise when others sit, who will speak when others are afraid, who will act when others hesitate. You are part of that lineage. You carry within you a voice meant to echo beyond your own life, actions meant to impact more than your own journey. The chosen cannot bury their gifts, cannot smother their fire, cannot sit back while the call goes unanswered. To be chosen is to carry a mandate, and a mandate demands a response. This is why rising and responding is urgent. Delay is another form of silence. Hesitation is another form of denial. Every moment you wait, every step you postpone is a moment lost that cannot be reclaimed. Rising requires urgency, a recognition that the time is now, not tomorrow, not someday. Responding requires faith, the kind of faith that trusts even without seeing the full picture, the kind of faith that believes the one who called you has already prepared the way. The chosen cannot remain silent because silence denies who they are, while response affirms their identity.